service of CNC Worldwide.
The Daily is a service of CNC News and Jib Jab Greetings. I'm Bud Lowell. The full AccuWeather forecast is right across the top of every CNC local news page. Worth taking a look at because we've got a band of wet, icy weather that's moved in. The National Weather Service has downgraded the freezing rain advisory for most of our region. They're still expecting freezing rain on and off Thursday from the western edge of the Finger Lakes across the Rochester area and in the Niagara frontier. They have cut back on how much ice to expect and how long, and they've changed the advisory for western New York to a flood watch. The ice advisory now ends at 6 p.m. Thursday instead of 11 p.m. The Weather Service says this is not a situation likely to disrupt travel or cause widespread power outages, although it's possible some tree limbs may come down. Instead, they say you should be looking out for slick spots on the roads and sidewalks through the day. Walking and driving could be difficult, definitely not impossible. The Brighton Town Board has unanimously approved a merger of the West Brighton Fire Department with the Henrietta Fire District. The action approved an agreement reached between the town and the Henrietta Department earlier this year to pick up fire coverage for West Brighton. The resolution, as approved, staffs West Brighton with 2 firefighters 7 days a week, and that is double the original coverage agreement. This also resolves a dispute between the town and the West Brighton volunteer firefighters that began when a report commissioned by the town criticized response times to fire calls. With declining attendance in recent years at the annual Monroe County Fair and the fairgrounds now sold, Monroe County is looking to develop a new agricultural festival of its own next year in Spencerport. The County Parks Department says the fair could be at Northampton Park and should focus on the importance of agriculture to the community. The county has issued a request for proposals to event organizers and promoters it wants to see their ideas. Disturbing testimony is going on in Canandaigua, where a Genesee County man is on trial, charged with more than 300 counts of sexual abuse. 42-year-old Michael Lewis is accused of regularly raping 2 sisters who were 12 and 14 at the time this abuse began. The assaults began at their home in Bloomfield and allegedly continued over nearly 2 years in 2010 and 2011. Lewis is charged with 340 counts, including predatory sexual assault on a child, and he faces 4 life prison terms if convicted. The first of the sisters to testify Wednesday said Lewis forced her to have sex with him in the basement of her home just before she turned 13. She kept a diary, and from that says she was assaulted 172 times. She also said Lewis forced her to lie and tell her doctor she was having sex with a 14-year-old boy so she could get birth control. The defense contends the girls are making up the accusations against Lewis because they were brought into family court on another matter. Lewis's attorney cross-examined the girl in detail about what the defendant wore, what time of day each event occurred, where they happened, apparently pursuing that theory. Prosecutor Jim Ritz says the case against Lewis will also be backed up by other evidence, including work records, and the trial continues Thursday. Police have identified the victims in 2 recent deaths, one in Rochester, one in Ontario County. Rochester police say the woman found dead under suspicious circumstances in a duplex on Park Avenue Friday was 34-year-old Trelawney Marlowe Franklin. No cause of death yet from the medical examiner. Meanwhile, state police say the man found dead Sunday in his burning SUV in East Bloomfield was 50-year-old Brett Shea of Canandaigua. The burning vehicle was found at the entrance to Boughton Park, but the fire was not what killed Mr. Shea. Police say the autopsy confirms Shea died of a heart attack before the fire started. They believe he was stricken while driving out of the park. His SUV continued into the woods, crashed, and somehow that caused it to take fire. Lots of fire activity and police activity around Rochester over the last 24 hours. The Ridge Road Fire Department was called out for a report of smoke at the DuPont facility on Lexington Avenue Wednesday evening. It turned out to be a hazmat situation. Firefighters found a leaking 55-gallon drum of chlorine dioxide, which is often used for bleaching and water treatment. The Monroe County hazmat team secured the leak, and Monroe County Firewire says the cause is under investigation. Ridge Road Fire District officials say no hazardous chemicals escaped from the property, but the wet and misty air made the emissions hug the ground. Rochester firefighters were called out for a blaze that heavily damaged the rear of a house on Remington Street Wednesday afternoon. That one was also under investigation. A city police cruiser was driving by when the officers noticed smoke coming from that house and raised the alarm. A family does live there, but nobody was home at the time. The house was heavily damaged. The Red Cross is helping that family out. Across the county, a house on West Commercial Street in East Rochester went up in flames on Wednesday evening. East Rochester was joined by trucks from Brighton and Fairport in fighting the multi-alarm blaze. Nobody was home at the apartments in that building either, but firefighters rescued several pets. No word yet on what caused that fire. By the way, these photos are from Monroe County Firewire, mcfw.com. That is a great site to learn about area firefighting activity. 2 Rochester gas and electric workers have been commended by RG&E's parent company for rescuing a Rochester man from a fire on Wednesday. The Rochester Fire Department says lineman Harry Reese and Efrain de Jesus were driving down Weil Street in the 14621 neighborhood. They saw smoke coming from a burning house, and a man was yelling for help from the second-story porch, so they used the ladder on their truck to rescue him minutes before the firefighters arrived. Deputy Fire Chief John Carney is quoted as saying, "That is about as lucky as it gets." Harold Mathis is the man who was rescued. He was trapped in his second-floor apartment by a fire that started on the first floor, and the cause of that is under investigation. Iberdrola USA, the parent company of RG&E, said these 2 heroes demonstrated what RG&E is all about, good people doing great work in our community. A section of Buffalo Road in Gates was shut down right at the start of Wednesday evening's rush hour when the bed of a dump truck snagged the power lines and yanked them right off the poles. The accident happened right at 4 p.m. at Buffalo Road and the Route 390 overpass. The driver was trapped in his cab by a live wire. He was rescued safely. It took utility crews until after 9:30 to fix the damage, and the road was closed much of that time. A 2-vehicle crash in Spencerport sent 2 people to the hospital Wednesday. Police say an SUV ran a stop sign at Chambers Street and Hubble Road in the village and T-boned right into the side of the car. Police say the SUV was traveling at a high rate of speed and alcohol may have been a factor in the crash. A Rochester man is in guarded condition at Strong Hospital after being shot Wednesday afternoon on Reynolds Street. Police say the 27-year-old man told them he was sitting in a car when someone just walked up and shot him. They're investigating. And state police have arrested a 37-year-old Greece man on child porn and identity theft charges. Gregory Pum is charged with possessing and promoting child pornography after an investigation by the State Police Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. He is in the Monroe County Jail on $10,000 bail. He faces a court appearance Thursday. Links to these and other stories are to the left of the player window, and at the bottom of the page in the gray bar are links you can use to post news directly to us. Share what you see and what you hear with us and what you capture on your cell phone as well. If you've got great video up on YouTube, drop us a line via those links and we'll post it up and link to it. Next news is as it happens. Updates as necessary. I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News.